All right, here we are on another break. Just finishing up lunch break here. I'm realizing that this last bit here that I'm trying to get out is probably going to be one of the more disjointed areas. It seems like I'm just kind of putting little bits and pieces together here and there, trying to get at a number of different topics. I think I'll probably have to rearrange this the most to get to put together something coherent regarding critical activism, as well as the motivating of the work to be done. I guess concept of Illuminati networking, just the sort of critical path towards the unfolding of the guild through time. And so right now I'm just trying to get at a kind of sentiment about why it's a great thing to be working with others on this type of work, this project. Put in context, I've when getting into the Great Axial War as a context, as well as you could say like the emergence of a new type of society, a new type of civilization, which I'm not sure if you can really say we've ever had it before. Who knows what the past was like? But in either way, if we did have it before, it was probably not available through the lens of this intellectual, analytical type of foundation. At least that it wasn't going to be available, and certainly not in the context of the whole world as we are all together, and Earth, all the life on Earth floating through this rock, floating on this rock through space, and just trying to figure out a way to live peacefully together, dealing with the problems inherent in how how our mind works to navigate reality, and some of the pitfalls in dealing with that, and of course the way the kind of lower states of order in which have emerged out in our shared space, in our social, just due to the, I guess, the tendency to form tumors, so to speak, in the APS cancer, which we refer to as how the APS tends to crust up and especially replicate those crusted patterns out towards others. And this can only really be done on the scale that it's done if the individual is actively suppressed in their facilities of their mind. So that's kind of the state we see right now. Total alienation everywhere. It's all over the place. The consumer culture, capitalism, just using each other as gears in a machine. And now here we are. We've got the internet, a total paradigm shift in how our information is shared amongst ourselves. We have basically the wiring, the groundwork for a global neurological network, a global brain, if you will. And yet we have this technology, but it's really the wetware that's running on the individual, on the individual being, on you and me. This is the major bottleneck, the major point of constraint, and this is the problem that can't seem to be solved, or I should say wicked problems, a set of wicked problems. So certainly they can be solved. We've through my exploration here, I am trying to illuminate and show the path through that. And here right now I'm just trying to describe a kind of just a team of good friends and people who know each other, trying to sort out the problems in their life. We've all been brought together to play to this place of sorcery of the spectacle, which seems like kind of a not to be conceited or anything, but a fairly special place, a fairly esoteric place, convergence of a number of different areas in which we are looking at these sorcery of the spectacle, and just noticing how image is representing things which are not there. Their representations are hollowed out. There's no substance to them, and through these symbols, these signs that we see, we assume them to signify something. And this is how the mind is exploited, because we don't have the facilities within our normal day-to-day operation that we are aware of. We're not conscious aware of our ability to dynamically navigate the testing and the experimentation of whether signs actually mean what they signify, or whether there's some kind of deception behind it, or whether, and importantly, we can and should benefit from taking a closer look at the relationship between the signifier and the signified, and adapting with feedback to our understandings of what's going on behind those signifiers. And so here we are working together. It's been years, off and on kind of contact and keeping in touch, and I know that for the most, like, we're always going to have a distribution heavily weighted or proportioned towards participant, because this is the type of society we're in. This is what we can expect. But those of us who have membership in the guild already, we really need to work together, figure out how to understand that we already do have an understanding, that we do have a foundation, and that we are building something special here. I don't know of any other that are so advanced, and so this is really what I want to kind of establish is that let it be known that there is a core team, that we are working together, that we have found ways to heal our own lives, and to find joy in life, and joy in creativity, joy in creating together. So I think it's awesome, it's wonderful, beautiful, and I just see such a high potential here, and I want this to get out. I want the work to get out. I want it to have meaning out in the world. And I want to support those around me, and I want support from those around me, to make some kind of meaning of this struggles that we've all had, this work that we've been doing. So let me just sort of transition this into what I'm looking at, what I'm expecting, what I'm seeing happen. We've got the AO software. It's already capable enough to. It is fairly generic. It's not. We will be, I'm sure, developing it more to integrate the model into its workings. However, it's such a generic application at this point that it can simply be utilized however we want. The cards we give the cards our own meanings. We assign our own meanings to colors for the cards, that kind of stuff. Just referencing the deck protocol there, as well as the model schema protocol. So I suggest that the core of us kind of acknowledge the the magnitude of this work and the sheer absolute potential for us, for each of us, and for our network to make a positive impact on the world, and to kind of get out of that theorizing mode and into practice. And I think we're pretty much there. Like as far as having the technology, the kind of, it seems like a number of us are just in this just breaking through our own work and kind of coming up for air and like finding each other there and seeing that we've all been kind of working on the same thing in just different facets of it. So I propose that we get serious about this, that we continue on with our plans to use the AO together, to share protocols, to work on our network, to work on this critical path towards adoption of the model, of the guild. And what more can I say? Like this is a direct response to the Great Axial War. It's going hot. Suffering will increase until awareness, or suffering will continue until awareness increases. What else is there to do? So I hope that this media expression piece will, through hopefully cooperation from the network, from people like you, who is reading or listening to this, that the sort of awareness of the work will increase, and that we'll be able to bring even more participants into the fold, in contact with the kind of inner, I guess, circle or core of creators, and just raise each other up. The structure of Portal Mountain is designed to facilitate the journey of increasing coherence. And so we start with a core. This is all we need to worry about initially, is just the core, getting it up and online. In other words, taking our relationships seriously, taking our work seriously, and doing something concrete about it, which I am explicitly explaining what to do right now. Work together, build relationships, peer with each other, build peer-to-peer relationships, discuss and work on the core here, the core kernel of the social operating system, the neurological operating system. Develop these facilities, these languages, the ways of talking about the things that are at the core, such as the feedback protocol, the coherence protocol, all this kind of stuff that just makes it easy and fluid and straightforward. Like there's from a membership standpoint, there's hardly any uncertainty left in the model. It's just simply use it to create and unfold and make something meaningful out of this work that we've been doing together. So this is the way that I see it unfolding, is making our kind of inner circle intentional, very intentional. Make it known that we are trying to bootstrap the guild, and that this definitely part of this is a sort of discipleship structure, however you want to call it, a learning structure, an educational structure, and that we would like to involve others, and just pull people from the kind of outskirts of the network, like people who are interested, but just they're not sure, they haven't quite got it, but they know something special is going on here. If we become very focused and intentional about our work, as well as if we support each other and endorse each other and endorse the work, endorse the network and what we're doing. This should provide enough sort of, I guess, concrete evidence to people to nudge them from guest to participant, so that, in other words, that people will start taking up commitments and working on their accountability and begin to build intentional relationships and start learning about the guild and start learning about how this all works together to address the problems that we all care deeply and dearly about. And then, of course, so with the kernel established, the core established, the guild goes out and the guild unfolds fractally into all these areas of behavior and starts collecting up and amassing protocols for dealing with different facets, different problems, different constraints being broken. We can collect problems together. We can attach and associate protocols. So breach constraints, that's another way of saying a problem. Protocols which deal with that. And as well as concrete programs which collect these protocols together into certain contexts of behavior and get things done, essentially. Take certain inputs and make outputs, and take care of the things that we hold dearly and care about and on which the body relies. So that's kind of how I see it unfolding. If we can get this core kind of together on the same page, and especially even using some of our latest technology, some of the AO program that we have, which, by the way, is capable now of peer-to-peer replication of the holocultural database. So we can work in our own context, and we can select from others protocols or sets of protocols, and just share them that way. So like the technology we've been waiting for these years, it's here. Many of us have kind of come out of our respective struggles to figure out our own work. And here we are. We're now all kind of seem to be making great strides and things clicking into place. So let's actually work together. Let's do what we wanted to do years ago. Now that we have the capacity to do it, let's remember why we do this work. For the insane alienation that we subject each other to, the violence, this depression. Like, most of the world is in a shithole right now, and if we are privileged to be able to sit down and read something like this, or listen to this, or have free time, let's figure a way out of that dopamine hit tunnel in which we quit halfway through and go click on the next thing and find the next stream of links, whatever it is. We're in general horribly addicted. We don't like change, but again, the pain, the suffering will continue until awareness increases. Awareness of our patterns, of how we are stuck and pushed into cycles of addictive behavior, and so many ways that our attention is simply ripped away from us and we need to focus this attention on doing the work, on doing justice to the work that has been done within our network. There are certainly others out there who are also struggling, some who are just coming on right now, coming online and embarking on exactly the same journey that we've been taking. So why don't we share this information? Why don't we collect together and find other authors, other creators, those who have been just keep on, like, they haven't been able to understand this work, and they keep on doing their own thing in their own little corner. We can gather together under this meta-organization, which of course respects the organization, respects the content. So I think we just have a lot of potential, and I don't want to waste it. I don't want to go back into another cycle of work by myself. I want to work with others. I want to share what I've found, what I've discovered, which is just, it's almost like an insane in a way load or burden, you could say. Of course, I don't feel bad about it. I feel great, but just that the idea that we've discovered so much and so much meaning. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, and yet I'm isolated in many ways, you could say, isolated from my network, from meaningful peers. Again, I'm referring back to, I guess, Illuminati networking here. I know that most people do not and cannot understand what I'm talking about here, but perhaps you can. And this is why I'm creating this, to share with my closest network. And I'm just begging, pleading, do something about this. Let's work together. Contact me. Tell me what you're working on, and let's reorganize. Let's get organized. There are so many different facets to the problems of the world, and we're sitting on a kind of core kernel of potential, the kernel of a new operating system, a new society. Like, we're sitting on it, and I don't see it manifesting out in the world. This is how I know that I must keep persisting and pursuing my peers. That way this can be selected out and shared with the world. If it's not selected by my peers, who will select it? Who will select it? This is why I've been going to church for 2 years now, joining and studying with small groups, just figuring out how this all works, and most importantly, building relationships. So this is to every single one of you who has come across my path, who I've talked to, who I've shared with, who we've kind of tried to catch up every now and then. This is to you. Where are you at? Does any of this mean anything to you? Is it important at all to you? Could your work have any significance in the context of this meta organization? So there's a certain threshold that has to be passed for this meta organization to really take off on its own. And I think most commonly, capital or money would be thrown at the problem of advertising, of pulling people in. But not only do I not have any money to do stuff like that, but it's usually, I'm not trying to relate in a way of giving instructions or commands in terms of advertising, or like I mentioned before, computational propaganda. I'm not trying to figure out the types of people out there and put a message in there to cause behaviors to happen. Advertising could never do what I need to do, and this is the power of the network. We need relationships amongst each other. We need to heal ourselves and heal those relationships around us. That way, each of us has a network into which our influence can affect and spread outwards. So this is why I'm basically outlining a program here, which says that our network has to, if we are to converge upon the meta organization, we have to start by connecting together at the membership level. So membership plus, even if it's even just one, say a chat group in Telegram, whatever. I don't know if we would use, I mean, we have the Portal Mountain campus. That's a membership guild. There's, I think, less than 10 people in it right now. But we could utilize that as a kind of as the proximity guild for collecting together the SOTS crew, if you will. We do have the guild's meta group as well, which is years and years old. That itself probably would not suffice, because again, we're there. We have a very small threshold for entry. It was simply to fill out a form to tell us about yourself, and then you get dropped into the guild's meta. So we would or could create, even just for the sake of continuity, we could upgrade the guild's meta, or the network, to include more than one chat room. So we would add another chat room, which would be like the not guild's meta, but like the guild membership, guild members, something like that. The guild members group, and there we would only invite people who basically never seem to break the constraints of membership, who in their way that they behave and act, and do not ever seem to behave as a participant would. So in other words, they seem to deeply get it. And this is kind of getting at one of the sort of problems of having these intentional proximity guilds, which are intentionally lining up with the coherence protocol. So of course we have the problem of never really being able to know 100% for certain whether somebody else has achieved membership. Often it would, I mean, for all intents and purposes, if somebody is not breaching the constraints of membership and they appear to be very well acting or behaving as a member, there's no harm in adding somebody, because they can always be removed later if they exclude themselves from membership by breaching constraints without repentance or without understanding of how the constraint was breached. It's basically a matter of time before such a person would out themselves as simply not understanding, and in other words, of navigating with a participant frame, in which simply the imitation, it's sort of trying to obey laws and imitate behavior without deeply knowing inside where that what those behaviors and what the laws have been set up for to prevent. So there's always the edge cases and stuff like that, which only a member would be able to properly navigate, and in which a participant would out themselves, basically. So that it's not a huge deal adding people or erring on the side of adding. And then the idea is to have this core, who can then work together to just imagine, to prophesy the further emergence of the guild within the network. So I mean, this would be like the kind of group that we keep coming up with these ideas, like we should have groups like this, or we should have a group to make a project, to make a zine or whatever it is, but we've never had such, I guess, coherent structures or protocols for why would we even do this, and how would it work, and especially how would it work in the context of an unfolding through time and space of an organization, a meta organization at that. So what I'm describing here is also reflective of what would and should be happening in other networks as well, who kind of by grace stumble upon or otherwise discover the meta narrative, the meta organization, and are just completely unorganized though about how to approach it, how to meaningfully navigate that, and how to coherently function in a way that allows the emergence of this global brain type of idea, the guild, in other words. And so I'm imagining this on our within the context of our Telegram group, our network, the SOTS Telegram network. But also I am envisioning and implementing this in the small groups that I'm connected to. So I'm trying to suggest ways of increasing of coherence, and one of my friends and I, who have been really leading and just created one of these small groups. So we have discussed creating this same type of deal, the membership area, so to speak, members only area, as well. And this is in the context of like an inter-church network. So the thing about small groups in the context of a church is that really a small group is a church. This is the kind of holonic way of looking at it. It's simply a gathering of those in the name of Jesus, and so that's his church. That is the church. And so we can't be just limited to thinking like, oh, this is just a group to study the Bible or something like that. Like, we have to imagine ourselves with the responsibility of the kingdom. Otherwise, what are we doing? That this is discipleship towards becoming Christ-like, and as well bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth. So when I think about church, I'm usually thinking in a larger context, not the material physical building. I'm talking about people and relationships. That is the church, and so the church, the true church is emerging all over the place in so many contexts. And again, so the meta religion, I would point out what we're doing with Portal Mountain, and even Echoes and all the work that we've been doing in the SOTS network. This is the meta organization. This is the meta religion, whether some of us realize it or not. And we now have the opportunity. We have we have the tools. We have the framework. It all just needs to be tested and developed and implemented, and we can make something big of this work and these relationships, that these friendships that we've sustained for all these years. See, I'm not sure if I finished my thought about just that what's going on, what I'm describing here in our network, this sort of convergence and emergence of a sort of an order of the meta organization within our network. This is also what happens in other networks. When the bootstrapping material is available, it becomes very fluid and easy to adopt. Of course, I spoke, I guess, at length about the potential, the conflict of exclusivity in religion, the tendency for exclusivity, which that very approach actually is an inoculation against the meta-narrative, to say that there's one literal truth and it's the only truth, and but meanwhile completely ignoring the problem of meaning, the problem of interpretation, etc. And all of these religions and everything have always tried to point to the meta-religion, and it's the saints, the prophets, who have just been shaking their head and crying in their pillow at the ways that at the difficulties and the ways that people mess up their interpretation of these systems. It's almost like unspoken or impossible to speak, due to not wanting to disrespect the narrative when pointing to the meta-narrative. But of course, there is, I think it's undeniable in culture right now that there is kind of an awakening or increasing of awareness happening in so many different contexts, not any particular context. And of course, every single religious or spiritual system has something different to offer, a different approach, or a different strengths and weaknesses, you could say. And I would qualify this by saying that, of course, and certainly, some religious and some spiritual systems are so damaging and destructive that they practically make the transition towards the meta-narrative impossible for the individual. So in other words, they make freedom for the individual impossible. And some are even based on what religion would call a worshipping of idols, or a worshipping of material things. In other words, this is like Satanism, stuff like that, where it's where destruction is and selfishness is worshipped. And of course, these are simply nihilistic spiritualities which end themselves in decay and destruction. They are not life affirming. They are not negentropic. They have nothing to do with the ongoing processes of life and the sustaining and cultivating of such. So just to get that relativistic point out there, that what I say is not relativistic. The path is narrow. The path is very narrow. And humans, believe it or not, all across the world have found ways to walk that path, whether their beliefs ended up to be exactly like yours or not. The beliefs are, in many cases, have and behaviors are life affirming, are affirming of the creative spirit and the continuation of creative life. And in that way approaches the meta-narrative or the meta-religion, in which there will never be a perfect expression, a perfect way of expressing it. And so that's just touching on that difficulty again of expressing the meta-narrative. And so yet this is, there is no other way to talk about the reconciliation of different cultures, of different religions and spiritual systems, other than in this context of the meta-narrative. And the thing that we all share, this body, this world, this body of constraints that we all share, we can sort of objectively say whether certain behaviors are breaching constraints or not. We can look at them and say, so every system, and especially every interpretation of every system, is going to need that dynamic give and take behavior. So in other words, this is the mimetic sort of revolution, as opposed to an abstract revolution whereby a certain ontology, a certain reality is projected out. This is the reality of dynamically navigating reality projections. This is the meta of ontology, and that truly is the key to navigating things with respect of that onto which we project, and again entering into that sort of respectful relationship between the kind of outer and the inner, the outer world that we sense and the inner sense making of the reality which our neural operating system has and constructs for us. And so here we are, sorcery of the spectacle, this massive machine of participant society, just steamrolling everything. And there is no ideological solution, there is no political solution. The only solution is a jumping up in coherence of the individual towards membership. In other words, that the individual be on a path of increasing coherence, which unfolds throughout their whole, throughout their whole sphere of influence pertaining to the body. the whole body of constraints: environment, organism, neurological, sociological. And that I know that others see this as well, because membership is something that can happen spontaneously. It's not dependent on any particular system of religion or spirituality. This is how it happened to me. I was simply struggling and stressed out so much at the end of my rope, so to speak, that finally my body forced me to question the content of my mind, and how I was just putting myself through this torture system. And that's basically where it came from. When I did that, I had this vision outside of time, this vision of myself outside time, and I was born again. I was born into the kingdom of God. I was born into membership in the guild. I was born into the Pure Land. And now my struggle all this time has been how to meaningfully express that. I believe a definite change has happened in the last year or two, where people that I speak to now, they seem to know exactly what I'm talking about, and they say that no one else has ever told them this kind of stuff in a way that they can understand. And so it's very encouraging. I know that that we are on the right track here. I believe that we have an enormous and amazing potential to make something much more of our lives, our individual lives, and even together we can work as a team. We can work as a team to make this real, to justify the suffering and the struggling that so many in our network have gone through. Like, let's stop splitting apart over and over again, and going our own ways and doing our own little thing. Like, why? Why do we? How is that helping? Like, we're definitely, like, I don't know. It's just this is my mind thinking. Like, after all that I've expressed in these 30 hours, I can't hardly comprehend that anybody would be able to listen to this or read this and understand this and then not work together. So I'm feeling very confident and encouraged that this message will reach the network, that we will come together meaningfully, that we'll start to use the technology that we've been working for and waiting for years, and that we will make something meaningful together. And that furthermore, it will be selected by all those around us, by each of us, the relationships that we have with others, that we will be able to share this with each other and meaningfully make society together. A new type of society, the membership society, which is emergent, and we are seeing it everywhere. It's almost like a tinderbox. We just need a catalyst here. The catalyst is the core operating system. We have the core operating system. This is what shows us and bootstraps our process of how to relate to each other in the context of the membership society. This is the guild unfolding, and I have nowhere else to go but you. You are the only one I know to go to. There's no advertisement I can make. There's no post to any subreddit that's going to do anything. You are my network, and I'm counting on you.